Hi, is your child a reluctant reader? Know that they need to read regularly, but it's too much of a struggle? Well, watch this video for part 3 of my step-by-step strategy that will give you everything that you need to know to get them hooked on reading. For the best reading tips and advice, subscribe to my channel, Grow a Bookworm, to catch new videos as soon as they are posted every Friday. So if in your house reading time can be quite a stressful time, with your child feeling reluctant to read to you, or pages taking a really long time because they're just not feeling enthusiastic about it, and if this is a contrast to how they used to feel when you read a story to them, and you've kind of seen this enthusiasm wane a little bit because they're struggling to recall sounds and words, then the one thing that I'd like you to really bear in mind is that you don't have to hear them read every night. Now, that might seem a little bit strange for me to say that to you, but what I would like you to think about is that to make these decisions based on what is best for your child. Now, if you're seeing them become switched off from reading over a period of time, then the best thing for them is then to find a way of taking that pressure off. Now, what I can do in this video particularly is to show you ways that you can mix it up, so that your reluctant reader will find different ways to develop those strategies without having to actually sit down and read to you. So what's going to follow is 5 different things that you can choose from. So instead of them reading to you, I'm going to give you 5 options for you to choose one of each night, or even just read a few times, get them to read to you a few times and then throw one of these in. Now, each of these things will develop different skills, different strategies, but if you mix them up, if you kind of try different things, then you're going to be constantly visiting skills that they need to become excellent readers, and you're probably going to, well, hopefully you're going to be demonstrating just how fantastic and varied reading can be for them, so that it will get them really hooked on it. So the first thing that we're going to look at is actually you reading to them. So previously I did a video on the importance of story time, so this links very much to that. But you actually reading to them, it's not a case of being sort of defeated and actually, oh well, I'll go back to reading to them. Actually, you reading to them is a really, really important strategy. Now, I said that for each part, or I've decided that for each part I'm going to give you 3 examples to choose from, 3 things that you could do. So the 3 things that you could do with story time to make it really effective for children. The first one is be a detective. So with Be a Detective, let me just grab a book. Let's see. Here's one that I've used before. So Be a Detective is not opening the book. So you get your book. So this one is The Monkey with a Bright Blue Bottom by Steve Smallman and Schon. And you're going to get your book and you're going to say, no, don't open it. You're going to have a look at it. And we're going to look at the front cover, maybe look at the spine, look at the back, have a look at it. And being a detective, detectives don't make guesses, they find clues. So they find clues and then they make a prediction about things, or they come up with an idea about what might happen. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your book, have a look at it together, and come up with, find those clues as detectives about what might happen in the book. Now, the best thing about this is that once you've made those things, it doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong, because what you're going to do is you're going to find out. So when you're opening the story and when you're reading the story, they're listening that little bit more carefully, because they're trying to find out whether they were right or not. So from this, I might say, The Monkey with a Bright Blue Bottom. Well, my first clue is that probably the main character is going to be a monkey. He's got a bright blue bottom. Is he going to start with the bright blue bottom? I'm looking, I'm seeing that there's a paintbrush down there. So someone's going to paint his bottom. So that's one of my things. Do I think he looks cheeky? I think maybe I could say that he's painted his bottom and he's going to go around and be really rude about it. So that could be my prediction or my guess. And then what you would do is you'd read through and you'd find out that, yes, I was right that somebody painted his bottom. I was wrong that it wasn't him that painted his bottom. And you get more out of the story because you've had that little prior conversation. So that's the first example. So the second thing that you could do, and this is something that I also looked at in more length in my previous video about story time, But this one is when you find a story with rhymes or repeating patterns and you miss out words and allow children to fill them in. So in the last video there was an example of me actually doing this with my daughters with this very book. So I'll just give you a very quick example. So what you would do is you would read through a part where there is a rhyme. So you'd go, "That's great," said the monkey. Then, just for a laugh, he painted brown squares on a yellow giraffe. No, I did that wrong there. Let me get through the rhyme first. Sorry. He painted brown squares on a yellow giraffe, black stripes on a zebra and white on a skunk, and both on the lemur asleep in his... So you'd have a look and see what it might be. What would rhyme with skunk? Bunk. Absolutely. So that's what you're going to do. So read the first word of the rhyming couplet and then let them fill in the second. Okay, so that's the second example. So the third one, so looking at the pictures and finding examples and different things in the pictures. So just as you're going through, looking at those pictures in the book, you know, what other things can you find? Because often with picture books, there can be so much more going on in there. So just talking about them as you're going. So reading a little bit and then looking at the pictures. What else can you find? What else can you spot? Just things that depthen that conversation. So in this part, which is you reading to them, there are three things. The first one was being a detective. The second one was missing out words and getting them to fill them in. And the third one for you to do was looking at the pictures, okay, and talking about what's in the pictures. Before I start the next strategy that you can choose from, I'd just like to say that one of the powerful things about these ideas and strategies is that you can use them wherever you like. It doesn't have to be in the time that you've allotted for reading time. If you're not going to hear them read that evening, you could try one of these activities on the way home in the car if it fits, that kind of thing, or, you know, at any point. So it's really good to try these at any time. Don't feel that they have to be in a certain slot. So the next one fits very well into wherever you are. This is just about talking about books, talking about something that they've read, talking about something that they've enjoyed sharing with you, or even talking about a film or a TV show, anything with a story or information in that they've enjoyed. So it's something that hooks their interest straight away anyway. So the three things here that you can look through are, the first one are, what were their favourite parts in it? What was their so what were their favourite parts in it? So which bits did they really like? Could they tell you about them? What are their favourite characters? Why? That's really straightforward. Just which bits did they enjoy? What were their characters? Just a gentle conversation about that. Now the second thing is, what actually happened? So this is summarising really. So it could be what happened in the latest episode of something, what happened during the movie, just getting them to give you details and giving it to you in that summarised sort of condensed form. So it can be just such a gentle conversation, just about, oh, so what happened there? Oh, and what happened next? And oh, that kind of thing. And they can say, you know, which bits they liked as well. So they're all kind of linked together. Now the third one is what might happen next. So it could be, if you've read a bit of a story, what might happen next? If they've watched a bit of a movie, what happened next? Or if you've watched the whole thing, what could happen in the sequel? So this is prediction, isn't it? So this is kind of thinking about using the clues that they've seen to sort of in your mind, like imagine what would happen next. So like put the events into logical order and thinks what the logical things about what might happen next. So it's evaluating what they've seen already to predict something else. So that's a really good thing to do. So you've got those three things. So it can be talk about the bits, the parts or the characters that they liked, summarize what happened, or predict what could happen next. So this next strategy, number 3, is one of my favourites. So this one is about telling stories. So this is something, I mean, a lot of these strategies you've got to get fully involved in, but this is one that you might have a go at it, and then they might have a go at it, and then you can do one together. So it's telling stories. So I've got 3 ways of doing this. So the first one might be that you, and when I say telling stories, I mean making them up and telling them to each other. So the first one could be, you could use 1-word prompts. You could use more than 1 word, but 1-word prompts is a nice quick way of getting started. So you could use a word like monster. So tell a very quick, very, you know, could just be a couple of sentences. If you get more interested, it could be longer, but a very quick story about a monster. You could say pirates, or midnight, or train, or different things like that, just to get a very quick idea. And it's important to model yourself doing it, just to show that it doesn't have to be perfect. This is not like you're writing the most amazing perfect story, but it's just having a go at it and falling down and making and sort of stumbling and not getting it quite right, but having a laugh while you're doing it and demonstrating that it can be really fun, trying to come up with something on the spot and then giving them goes together or helping each other out and trying that. So you could do so one word story prompts. Then you could carry on a favourite story. So we talked a little bit earlier about predictions for sequels. This is very similar to that, telling a story that's the next one of a series. So if they're really into Captain Underpants, so telling the next story about Captain Underpants. If they're really into something, telling that next one. It doesn't have to be a book if they haven't yet really got that interest in books yet. It could be something that they've seen on television. It could be anything, an event that's happened, like telling the next part of it. So that's the second one. Then the third example is object prompts. So going and getting something that's sort of a bit interesting or something they haven't seen in a while, like a funny hat or a toy that they've not seen, just something that you grab on the way up to their bedroom or on the way out or wherever it is you're going. Grab an object, and that can be your focus of a story. And it could be made into a competition. It could be a case of I make a story about that object, you make a story about that object, and we both decide which one we like the most. Or we could kind of, just that kind of thing. You can see these are so sort of like they're so, just trying to think of the word, so malleable. That's right, that's it. So malleable, these ideas, because you can just make them fit you and your child. And the whole point of this is making something that fits them, gets them hooked in, rather than something that they're struggling with each time. Now, I don't want you to think at any point I'm saying do all these all week instead of hearing them read. The idea of this is put these in when you need to. If they're reading to you Monday, they read to you Tuesday, they read to you Wednesday, throw one of these in on Thursday if they're getting a little bit tired with it, to make them fresh again on Friday. It could be that they're just totally switched off from books, in which case you just keep doing these until one day they suddenly get back into reading to you again. So just do it exactly as fits you and your child. And it's entirely, the title of this being Mix It Up is so true. Mix those things around, do them in different orders, different ways, just so that they've got some sort of exposure to these reading skills that are being taught in these sessions. So on our fourth strategy here, is to act out or play a story. So we told stories, but now we can be acting it out. Now this is something that you can get involved in, or it can be something that you can set up. So the first thing would be just getting dressed up as a favourite character. Well, I'm not always sure whether I'm talking about you or them, but just using things to kind of dress up as a favourite character, and then not necessarily acting out the story, but acting as that character and kind of thinking what they might be. And it could be a story character, but equally television, film, different things as well, or somebody that they know that's still practicing those skills that are linked to reading. So that's the first one, act as a character. And you could even do that without dressing up. I think dressing up is a great thing and very memorable, but you could do it without if you didn't have time or didn't have the things to do that. So then the second example for this strategy is to actually retell your favourite story. So it's just telling something that you love, and again, story, TV show, movie, whatever it is, facts from a fact book, anything like that. Just retelling things to each other. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just getting the key points across, or making your own changes in it. So something that you've enjoyed, telling it. And that, I'm afraid, is something that you would absolutely have to model first. And it might be something that even the first few times you're just doing this for them, they're listening and maybe even critiquing how well you're doing it. But you do a few times for them, and then they might join in afterwards. So retelling a story, you're not going to get it right, don't worry about it, but just do your best, and honestly they will really appreciate it, I'm sure. If you do funny voices as well, it's always going to be a winner, and then they might try it later on. Okay, so that was your first two. So it was act as the character and retell your favourite story. So the third example in this one is using toys or objects that are linked to the story to have a free play session around that story. So for example, there's a really good book that I love called Billy's Bucket. So in Billy's Bucket, he finds all sorts of things inside the bucket in his imagination, or it might not be his imagination. The story kind of leaves that for you to think. He sees all sorts of things happening in there. So with that, for example, you would give a bucket. You might, because at one point he sees sea creatures and things in the bucket, so you might put little sea toys, all sorts of things in the bucket, and then they can play it. So it could be linked to a story. You know, if you read them to this story at another point, so they need to know the story a little bit, but then just let them go with it, because they'll reenact it, they'll do different bits, they might add different things. Even if it doesn't look like they're exactly playing about that story, it'll be building up links. So providing things for them to play with that are linked to the story and allowing them to just go with it and play with those things. This may not work in a situation where you say, here are the objects, you play now. It might work better in a situation where you got those things, leave them on the side, and then at some point during the week they get to them and play them. It's going to be so much better, so much more effective if it's more led by them. So those things are available to them, but they need to really lead it. And I mean, that's something that this sort of playing with objects linked to stories, if you Google it, or if you go on Pinterest or Instagram, there are loads of different things on there, loads of people who have made an art form out of that, and lots of inspiration if you need some to have a look at those things, because honestly there's some people that take that to a level that I've never even thought of before. So have a look at that. It's a really, really good thing to do. So just recapping on this strategy, which is telling or acting a story. The first one was acting as the character, so dressing up or just acting as that character. The second one was retelling a story, and the third one is using free play linked to a story using objects. Okay, so the final strategy that we're going to look at is playing games like almost card games and memory games with sounds or words. So this one I'm going to have to demonstrate, so I've got a few things here just to show you. So it might be that your child's teacher or their school has sent home some sounds that they're particularly working on, so you could use those. Or you could get them to just read a little bit of their story, and as you're reading, or their school reading book, as they're reading it, just pick out things that they're not quite sure of yet. And just get, 4 or 5, not that many. It could be phonic sounds, it could be just words that what you're going to do is you're going to take these and then help them to remember them, so that they can remember them by sight when they see them next time. So I've just chosen a few. So I've chosen here, I've got s, I have got a, p, and t. I've got those, okay? So these are obviously really early on sounds, but you could do this just as easily for split vowel digraphs. You could do it for much trickier sounds, or even if you're past sounds with your child, you're moving further on, you could do it for all kinds of words. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I've very attractively balanced this on a book here. So the first thing is just a game that we know very well, which is Kim's game. So you have a look at them, and you would maybe just help them sound them out a little bit. If they're not sure what they are to start with, you can do a bit of I say, you say. So I say s, you say s. I say t, you say t. I say p, you say p. I say a, you say a. And do that a little bit until they can just tell you what they are. And then what you would do is you'd go, close your eyes, or you'd cover this up, and then you'd take one away. And then you'd just be what one is missing. And you just do that a little bit, have a little game with it. Get them, the best thing about this is get them to do it for you as well, so that you have to guess which one's missing. That's a great way of getting more interaction with it and making it more enjoyable. So that's one thing you can do, the first one, Kim's game. So then the second one that we're going to do, you will need to make 2 sets of these sounds. So I'm just going to get the set. So this is a sound box that we use. I've got different sounds and words in here, as well as magnetic letters, and we've got a metal box because obviously the magnetic letters stick to the metal box and you can make words, so it's quite a handy thing to have, a little sound box. So I've got some of those out. So now I've just got duplicates of the ones that I already had. So I've got 2 of a, 2 of t, and so on. And this isn't going to work very well for me because as I made these, obviously, look, you'll see the pen has gone right through. So you need to do it on thicker cards so you can't see the back. But please forgive me while I do this. So what you're going to do is you're going to place them all, mix them up, and it's just matching pairs. A game I'm sure you played lots of different times, and you're just going to place them all face down, mix them all up a little bit, and then you're going to take turns, both of you taking turns to turn one over, and then turn it over, say the sound, ah, and then have a look for another one. You're going to turn it over, s. No, they don't match, so turn them back over, but remember where they are, and then maybe you'll have a go, or you can get your whole family involved, really. Turn another one over, t, t. Ah, they match, brilliant. So I get to take those off, and I keep those ones. So that's your second game there. So it's just matching pairs game. This next one, you're also going to need the duplicate cards for. So this one, you'll know this one very well, snap. Okay. So it's just exactly the same as playing snap anyway, apart from the fact that you need to build in saying the sounds as you're laying them down. So with this one, I'll just put them like that so you can see. Oh, they're not all the right way up. So you would start off with half the deck or half the cards each, and you put them down into the middle. So you put them down face up. Okay, you can see that, lovely. You can put them down like that, and then you'd have to say t. Now, how I play this game is that if there is a snap, if there's a situation where this happens, you can say snap before saying the sounds. So you can go, oh, snap, okay? But you haven't won those cards until you can say the sound. So if you were to go snap, buh, sorry, buh, you wouldn't be able to get those. But if you say snap, t, fantastic. And also, as you might have noticed me making that adjustment there, when you get keyed into them making the correct sound, so t instead of t, then you can also be quite harsh about it and say, no, you haven't earned those yet because it needs to be t. So, and if you want more on those as well, there's lots of videos that you can search for to get the pronunciation of those sounds, but I often find it's the shortest, cleanest sound. So it's not the t, it's the t, and it's not the d, it's the d. So short, clean sounds. But yeah, you can build all sorts of things into that. So that's it. So those three, you've got Kim's game, you've got matching pairs, and you've got snap. So hopefully that should give you quite a lot to go with. So just reflecting back on that, so you've got your five different things that you can mix up, which is, see if I can remember them all now. So the first one was reading to them. The second one, I'm going to cheat a little bit and have a little look down at the notes I've got here. So talking about books and films, then telling stories, acting out or playing stories, and then memory games at the end. So there's those different things that you can mix up. And like I said, it may be that not all of them suit you or suit your child, but there's just a few different things for you to mix it up. Now, if you are at all unsure about this, or you're worried, the first thing that I would always say is talk to your child's teacher. Get in contact with the school, talk to them about what you're doing. If you're going to use these strategies, talk to them about those strategies that you're going to use. From my point of view as a teacher, I think that this is an excellent way, because I would always think, one, that you know your child, so if you're making those decisions, they're based in something, and two, that it's much better to try a different approach to something than keep pushing the same thing if it's going to switch them off. If you send a child into school who has tried lots of different things and is just really keen with books, with reading, with words, then they are going to be so much more receptive to what the teacher and what the school is doing. So that, on the other side, obviously, if they're just slogging through it and they go in just really switched off, it's going to be harder to engage them at school. So don't worry about not necessarily hearing them read every night, because you're giving them this sort of different approaches to reading. And this is a really, really good way of getting them totally hooked on reading and books. So good luck with that. Please give it a good go. I've just seen a little face peeking at me through a door over there. So have a good go at this, and please, if you want more tips, more advice, I will be releasing a video every Friday, so subscribe to Grow a Bookworm, please. And if you liked this video, please let me know by liking it below, and I will see you all soon. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers. Thank you.